Whether you have many interests or you're just not sure what type of content to put out, here are a few questions you should ask yourself to find some clarity. Today, we're diving deep into finding the right type of content to put out for your podcast. Clarity is key, and I got questions that you need to ask yourself. But first, hi, I'm Alexis, a podcast manager helping business owners and passionate hobbyists level up their podcast visibility with professional audio and video. So if you enjoy valuable content on podcasting, consider subscribing because I put out videos like this every other week. A like and a comment doesn't hurt either. Okay, let's get into it. Question number 1, what's your passion? Why did you start this podcast? If you started this podcast just to see what happens, that's cool, but you still gotta ask yourself, why did you start it? Your podcast should align with your interests and your expertise. What topics do you get excited about, or what are you knowledgeable in? If you're thinking, I have no idea, well then ask yourself, why did you start this podcast to begin with? What is it that you wanted to share with people? I mean, that is why you started your podcast, right? Whether it's a journey you're going on and you wanted to share your experience with others, or you're very knowledgeable on a specific topic and you wanted to share that expertise, your opinions, your thoughts on that topic with people, get clear on why you started it. By it, I mean the podcast. It sounds so basic, but knowing the why behind why you started this podcast is what's going to set the foundation for your podcasting journey. Question number 2, what is your goal with this podcast? Are you solving a problem for a group of people? Are you wanting to spark deeper conversation on a specific topic? Or are you wanting people to feel less alone by sharing your journey through a recent health scare? Heck, maybe you're traveling solo for the first time and you're rediscovering yourself in this new chapter of your life and you just want to share the things that you're learning. What's the goal? Having this in mind as you go through this roller coaster of a journey is what's going to get you to the finish line, so to speak. Because that's what podcasting is. It's a journey. And if you're not strong on your goal, then all of the little annoyances with recording on days that you don't feel like it, or cancellations with guests, or frustrations with the technical issues that you will face at some point on your podcasting career journey, whatever it is, these can all distract you from why you actually started to begin with. Now, if your goal is just to make money or land sponsorships, grow your podcast to thousands or millions subscribers or listeners, that isn't to say that it isn't possible for people to have a successful podcast launch or podcast in general sooner rather than later. But usually if that happens, chances are those podcast hosts have a bigger business, a marketing team, even a little agency that they're working with, or even an established brand. So adding a podcast in the mix is just like another way to spread their message. So long story short, if making an income or seeing massive ROI is the goal, then it's going to take time. Which brings me to my next question. How are you measuring success? What does success with this podcast look like for you? Is it to become a lead generator for your business or the services you provide? Is it to establish yourself as an industry leader in the specific field that you're in? Is it to help a group of people going through a rough time and giving them the tools and resources you wish you had when you were going through something similar? I hate to be that person that just repeats everything else that's out there, but it's true, success looks different for everyone, and not everyone is trying to make money from this. So what makes your podcast successful to you? Question number 4, who is your ideal listener? This can be kind of hard if you're not really sure what kind of content you want to put out. When this happens, I would rewire my thinking a little bit and ask myself, what did I wish I had when I was at this point in my life? Or what would have helped me get to this point? Then speak to that person and only that person. You know that saying, when you speak to everyone, you speak to no one? It applies here. In my opinion, everything good starts with a brainstorm. So brainstorm who your ideal listener is. Know their age, their gender, their interests. What do they like to do? What do they hate doing? What are their pain points? Tailor your content to speak directly to that person. Plus, the clearer you are on this, the easier it is to come up with content to record specifically for this person because you know exactly what they need. Question number 5, what is your niche? I used to hate when people used to say, you need a niche to start anything. And while yes, that's true, that's not always as clear as people make it seem. Finding a niche can actually feel a lot more difficult than it actually is, especially if you don't really know how to get started. Especially if you have so many interests, picking a niche can feel very limiting. This is your podcast after all, and starting a podcast is a great way to find like-minded individuals who have the same interests as you. Yes, you're putting out content to help others, but you're also putting out content that interests you? What inspires you? What brings you joy? What concerns do you have that you want to share? The listeners that relate or resonate will stick around. And some will fall off, but that's supposed to happen. But I think it's important to consider the category you want to be in or that your podcast falls under and create content around that. However, that's not to say that you could end up getting bored of your own content. Or maybe you're getting feedback from listeners that they think everything is the same. I don't know. Consider starting a series on your podcast to address new topics. It can be something like a Get to Know Me or current events or Friday Fun Day. Or this is what's going on in my life right now. You can pop in a new episode here and there just to change things up, but the core content still remains the same. So pick a niche that you feel that you can speak on, and then maybe down the road, 5 years later, you're like, you know what? I don't want to speak on this anymore. You can make the shift. Start out with one thing and then see how it goes. The last question to help you find the right content for your podcast: what does your current workflow look like? Finding clarity with your podcast requires an organized setup and workflow. If you're winging it as you go, some days are going to feel way more overwhelming than usual. If you're in this podcasting game for the long run, then you got to take it seriously. And one way to do that is creating a podcasting schedule for yourself. What day do you brainstorm new topics? What day do you batch record your content? What day do you edit all the episodes? Or what day do you have the content recorded and you gotta send it off to your editor or podcast manager? There are so many project management systems out there that you can use. Airtable, ClickUp, Trello, Asana. Create a page solely for your topics and then create a page solely for your episodes and what's coming up and what stage they're in. There's a lot of work on the back end. That's just the reality of podcasting. So set it all up now, get organized, because as you keep going along this journey, things are gonna get crazier. And by crazier, I mean start throwing in sponsorships or advertisers or, I don't know, brands. The sooner you can get organized now, the faster you're gonna thank yourself that you did it. And hey, if you're just like, I don't even know where to start with this, hop on a call with a podcast manager and talk to them about what your concerns are, and maybe they can guide you in the right direction. I say podcast manager because those are the things that we help with. There are so many podcast managers out there that can fit your needs. So I think it's important that if you need some help, to find the help that you need. Either way, an organized setup and workflow is going to be very important for your success as a podcaster. And there you have it. These are the questions I'd ask myself if I was trying to find the right content for my podcast. So stay clear, stay inspired, and keep creating amazing content. I'll see you in the next video.